One of the most fascinating phenomena of Jewish history is the relationship of the Haggadah to Klal Yisrael. When I mean by Klal Yisrael is all Jews, Jews of every stripe and every kind of inclination. Secular Jews in the world have some kind of a connection to the Pesach Seder and to some adumbrated, convoluted kind of a version of the Haggadah, but they seem to have an inner urgency to have some connection to the fact that it's Pesach more than any other yontif. Question number one. Question number two. The number 4 is the recurring number in the Haggadah. Why 4? It's the 4 sons, the 4 cups of wine, the 4 expressions of Geula, but that it harkens back to the 4 expressions of Geula, but that Gufa is a question why that in itself needs to be understood. Why were there 4 such expressions to predispose us in that direction? Question number 3. In the Haggadah, one of the sons is a son who's just so far removed, he doesn't even know what to ask. So the language in the Haggadah is at psachlo. You ask him. Why is it in the feminine, not in the masculine? Question number 4. Whatever night, the day of the week, and evening is the Pesach Seder, according to our Mesoret, that will be the same night that Tisha B'Av will fall. What, pray tell, should Tisha B'Av, which is all about Avelos, and how does that fit? In fact, we even have the dipping of an egg, which is cylindrical, which symbolizes the idea of the cycle of human existence and Avelos, like we saw the lentils, the Adasim by when Yaakov was cooking it was during an Avelos period. So, 4 questions. Shlomo Melech says, Shma b'ni l'musa avicha, listen to the musar, the instructions of your father, v'al titosh, and don't abandon the Torah of your mother. One would have to, according to our norms of biblical exegesis, of how we approach the understanding a posuk that Chazal has taught us, Shema b'ni, you have to do something. Listening, paying attention is doing something. It's being active. You're not asleep. You have to pay attention. You have to absorb it. Al titosh is in the negative. Don't abandon the truth of your mother, which seems to indicate if you don't do something to uproot it and extricate it, it's there. It's rooted in your person. On the level of even being passive, of not being negative, not being proactively negative, there's something there. It would seem also, teras imecha, the word em, is the root form of the word umah, nation. Our nationhood is rooted in our having been born from a Jewish mother. Question of gerus, gehalocha, that's a separate discussion. But that is the norm of how it goes through history. The initiative of the relationship to the Havtocha, to Avraham Avinu, re-expressed, recommitted to Yitzchak and to Yaakov. That was the patriarchal mode. That was the Messias. That relationship was given over from Avram through the Deiros. But the mechanism, the vehicle through which it would work would be the moistic relationship, the matriarchal mode. Difference between the matriarchal mode and the patriarchal mode is the matriarchal mode embraces what we have called minimal Jewish identity. Jews in Mitzrayim had slipped into serving idolatry. But they had Jewish dress, Jewish garb, customs. The customs are the Teira Simecha. And because they kept language, the garb, a certain kind of loyalty to their origin, that stood them in good stead. That was the matriarchal mode. So let's follow that through another bit. The Derech Hashem teaches us, a number of places, Luzzatto says this, that whenever you come to a Yontif, you're not commemorating something that happened then. You are now coming to a place in time. Jews have to relate to time as if it was a place. Every place has its topography, has its mineral content, has its climate. There's an environmental reality that impacts, influences, and infiltrates into the psyche through osmosis and consciously often. As such, that means that the coming to that place in time, in Pesach time. What happened Pesach time? Because there was this minimal matriarchal mode in place, they still had Jewish customs. They still had some lingering Jewish identity. So the Ribono Shel Olam reached out to them. They weren't looking for the Ribono Shel Olam. The Ribono Shel Olam was looking for them and connected with them and awakened them. There was an arousal. It was Isarusa de Le'ila, the arousal from above. That happens and is revisited every Pesach, that you come to that place in time, and when you come to that place in time, that's what's happening. And it's an irresistible reality for somebody who hasn't totally broken with, if there's any vestige of a lingering connection to his Jewishness. And so it's also true of Moshe Rabbeinu. Already was told, was shared with him, that Avram's pact that he made in the Bris Ben Absorim, in the covenantal agreement, that they'll exile Golus is a better kind of atonement and purification than Gehenna, chas v'sholem. So Avram opted for the lesser of the evils when Klal Yisrael would fail in history. Did they have to fail? No. But it was anticipated that they would. And that anticipation then was already to be dealt with. One could ask that again, as we did, the Tisha B'Av syndrome. The Tisha B'Av phenomenon if Klal Yisrael is going to bottom out, and they're going to fail. So, the Mahadavadema, to what might we compare it? There are two companies, both doing fabulously well during the years of bounty, of prosperity. But one is off the charts altogether. The other one is not doing that great, like number one, but it's making profit. But the second company has a game plan for a recession. How to deal with what resources do they have as a backup for a recession? The first company, off the charts, fabulous, fabulous profits, but they don't have a game plan for recession. Most of the accomplished businessmen that I know would opt for the second company to invest in, because we don't know when the recessions are coming. They hit in an unprecedented fashion. There's not a necessary cyclical pattern that they follow. The dot-com debacle, the meltdown, what we've seen, and all kinds of catastrophes, lo aleinu, in the world, the COVID, things happen. And when things happen, the markets respond, because the markets are expressions of attitudes, and attitudes of the investors and the shareholders, subject to all of the vagaries of human history, human events, the essential basic human condition. There's no escape. Primary to our thinking is just like the Haggadah, all the way through, is shaped, it's organized based on provoking, stimulating the children to ask, or the childlike adult who doesn't know, and even Talmidei Chachamim have to ask. Because until you ask the question, you're not invested in the answer. You only care about the answer after you're invested. So it's atpsachlo, stimulate the potential in that Jew to awaken his power that is within his neshama that may have been dormant. But now we're in that place in time, and once you're there, this is the moment to catapult it, take the lid off that enormous dynamo of potential. In the Haggadah itself, we can call to mind also the Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. The Malachim came to him in Shemayim, the Zohar, in the end of Parshas B'chukosai says that your son Rabbi Eliezer just was mechadish, a chiddush, just innovated an idea that is, the whole world is singing, dancing, happy with this idea. The verse says, the end of the Parashat B'chukosai, Lo ma'astim v'lo ga'altim lechalosom. And not found you so despicable and so abominable as to totally annihilate you. That kind of what we have called in the past spiritual brinkmanship, that Klal Yisrael goes to the edge, but somehow there's always a remnant that continues as determined, dictated by the Hashgacha and the Hashgachic pact with Avram in Bris Bein Absorim and reconfirmed through the generations. Seder Eliezer, one may also read it that hidden in those words, Lo ma'astim v'lo v'galtim l'ma hadavadayim. To what is it to be compared? A king has a kind of protocol. There are places he'll go and places he won't go. Even if he can get tomatoes at a cheap price in Machane Yehuda, it's inappropriate for him to go there, to go shopping Erev Shabbos. But if the Kala of the king, his bride, is abducted by kidnappers, he'll pursue them wherever they go to the most inappropriate place. It's inappropriate for the Shekhinah to be in the marketplaces of the exile. It's a different kind of world. It's a different kind of air. Of course, every Beis Medrash, the Daled Amos of Halacha, is an embassy of Eretz Yisrael and with the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, but that in itself is a discussion. I remember when I was leaving Toronto, Rav Ruderman Zatzal told me, Bist doch shein in Eretz Yisrael, you're in Eretz Yisrael, you're in the Beis Medrash here, you're learning, you're teaching. So I told him, what does it mean? That Pchina, perhaps one may interpret it to mean that if we planted orange trees in the Beis Medrash and Finch Avenue in Willowdale, which was then the northernmost point of, you can see how long ago that was, of the Yishuv, of the community, of the habitation. Beyond that seemed to be the Yukon. But nobody says you have to take Trumas and Mises from a tree planted in that Beis Medrash. It has certain bchinas, certain dimensions, but not a chiyuv. It's not a shtik Eretz Yisrael mamash. It has certain milas of Eretz Yisrael that the Kodesh Baruch Hu grants it in the Hashros Hashchina, but it still has to get to Eretz Yisrael Losed Lovoi. And so perhaps there's another dimension in that the Chazal say, based on the Posek, that Eretz Yisrael, based on what the Meraglim said, that it's an Eretz Ochelish that consumes its inhabitants. And Rav Tzadok said this can be read positively, because every Posek in the Torah has to be able to be read positively. So, there's no land in the world that ingests and digests its inhabitants because they are suited to this place and others aren't. When our enemies capture Yisrael, that the Posek says, Vashimosi aniyas ha'oretz l'fnei oivechem hayoshim bo. The Ramban says, I will keep this land desolate for those who have conquered it and have it. It won't work for them because there's a certain spiritual chemistry between Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael that doesn't exist with others. And therefore, there's the positive dimension of Eretz Ochelish Yisrael. The negative, clear, is that it's indigestible. For this land won't digest the Oivre Aveira. And that's why Am Yisrael gets not just the Goyim, the Umos that forfeited their right to be here. Again and again, it's reviewed in the Torah that had they not reached Sosom, the amount, the measure of forfeiture that they did, they wouldn't have been evicted. Their eviction based on they couldn't stay in this environment of Kedusha. And not only they, but Am Yisrael couldn't stay here they'll be evicted and have to go into Golus. The difference is that Am Yisrael will come back. Am Yisrael will come back to Eretz Yisrael because it has this inherent relationship of the Jew to this space as the demonstrating, ideally, what the relationship is between the human and the divine. How the human being can be an expression of kedusha, of sanctity, and this kind of perfection. Beis Halevi says that why didn't Jews say Shira before they got to the Yam? I saw so many miracles in Mitzrayim because they didn't yet comprehend the totality of how all the leading events and suffering and challenges were necessary to bring them to that moment. We don't have that perspective yet of singing the Shira through compiling, comprehending the comprehensive view of it all. It's too early for us where we stand, but one thing is for sure, that having lived through the last years of COVID, of Eretz Yisrael getting the vaccine, of the hashgacha, who brought the vaccine, how it came here, how it got disseminated, and then the breaches in the applications, and the hashgacha here is a different kind of hashgacha. May the Ribbon Shalom give us the schus, the sensitivity to bring together once again Shema B'ni with the recitation of the Haggadah. Shema B'ni, listen my son, le Musar Avicha, to the ethic of your father. V'al titosh, and don't abandon. Every Jew, any Jew, if he has some kind of minimal allegiance, yet his neshama is somehow connected and can yet be rearticulated, that residual expression. Shem Yitain, Erev Pesach Tov, and Psuras Tevis for Kol B'nai Yisrael, wherever they are in the world.
Hi, this is Peretz Baruch Eichler, a proud alumnus of Ohr Somayach. Now, what you just watched is one of the many programs that Ohr Somayach provides, leaving its impact on hundreds of thousands, with so many more waiting to be reached. Ohr Somayach's central campus in Jerusalem has over 300 students presently learning there. And now you can be a vital part of spreading that bounty of knowledge worldwide by logging on to donate.ohr.edu. We can step up to the plate at this pivotal moment of Ohr Somayach's growth and bring the next generation of Jews home.